The crimson sands of Proxima howled against Dr. Amanda Hayes' environment suit as she trudged through another brutal sandstorm. Her quantum resonance scanner, a prototype she'd spent 3 years developing, pulsed with a soft blue glow against her hip. The device had detected something unusual beneath this particular dune field, though her colleagues at the Archaeological Institute had dismissed the readings as another sensor malfunction. Just background radiation from the cave systems, they'd said. But Amanda knew better. The quantum signature was too precise, too structured to be natural. Environmental controls holding steady, her suit's AI reported. 43 minutes of oxygen remaining. Amanda checked her positioning data against the scanner's readout. Just a little further, AI, she told the AI. The signal's getting stronger. The storm began to ease as she approached a towering rock formation jutting from the desert floor. Her scanner's rhythmic pulsing increased in frequency, becoming almost frantic as she neared the base of the cliff. There, partially exposed by the endless winds, stood an arch of material that definitely wasn't natural stone. AI, analyze composition, Amanda commanded, running her gloved hand across the smooth surface. The material felt warm despite the planet's bitter cold. Unable to identify composition, AI responded. Material appears to be a crystalline matrix with properties inconsistent with known elements. Amanda's heart raced. Unknown materials were rare enough in a galaxy where most advanced civilizations freely shared their technological databases. She activated her suit's high-powered lights and examined the arch more closely. Intricate patterns covered its surface, flowing like liquid metal beneath the translucent exterior. Beginning documentation, she said, activating her suit's recording systems. As she moved closer to study the patterns, her scanner erupted in a series of urgent beeps. The arch surface rippled in response, patterns shifting and reorganizing themselves. Warning, Araya announced. Detecting significant energy buildup. Before Amanda could retreat, a beam of light shot from the arch, scanning her from head to toe. The patterns on the surface rearranged themselves into what appeared to be text, cycling through dozens of writing systems before settling on modern English. Genetic profile accepted. Teacher lineage detected. Welcome, seeker. The ground beneath Amanda's feet trembled as sections of the cliff face began to retract, revealing a massive doorway. Her suit's lights illuminated a corridor that stretched deep into the rock, its walls lined with the same mysterious material as the arch. ARIA, send an emergency beacon to base camp, Amanda instructed. Mark coordinates and attach all sensor data. Unable to comply, the AI responded. All external communications are being blocked by an unknown field. Amanda checked her oxygen levels again. 38 minutes, not enough time to return to base camp for backup. The rational choice would be to mark the location and return with a full team. The corridor's patterns shifted again, forming new words. Time is limited. The truth must be preserved. Amanda took a deep breath. 3 years of research, countless rejected grant proposals, and the ridicule of her peers had led to this moment. ARIA, log all sensor data locally. We're going in. The corridor responded to her presence, illuminating itself with a soft, ambient glow as she advanced. After 50 meters, it opened into a vast chamber that defied the laws of physics. The space seemed to stretch forever, yet her scanner insisted the entire structure occupied an impossible volume within the cliff. At the chamber's center stood a pillar of light, suspended in midair. Surrounding it were hundreds of crystalline data cores, each pulsing with its own inner radiance. But what caught Amanda's attention were the holographic guardians that materialized around her, figures of pure light in the shape of robed humanoids. Before accessing the archive of truth, they spoke in unison, their voices resonating directly in her mind. You must be tested. The knowledge contained here has been preserved for 50 millennia, waiting for those worthy to understand humanity's greatest choice. Amanda steadied herself, mind racing with questions. 50 millennia ago, Humanity was supposed to be taking its first steps into agriculture. Yet here was evidence of technology far beyond anything currently known to exist. "I'm ready," she declared, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "Test me." The Guardians raised their hands, and the chamber transformed around her. The true test of humanity's forgotten legacy was about to begin. The holographic test chamber shimmered and solidified into what appeared to be an ancient observatory. Through its crystalline dome, Amanda watched a younger Earth's night sky, unchanged by orbital habitats or defense platforms. But what caught her breath wasn't the pristine view of the Milky Way. It was the impossible technology surrounding her. "Observe the first awakening." The Guardian's voice echoed as figures materialized around her. Humans dressed in shimmering garments operated devices that seemed to bend reality itself. Their movements were precise, deliberate, as if each gesture carried the weight of cosmic significance. "This can't be right," Amanda whispered. "These readings suggest this is from over 50,000 years ago, but your current historical records are incomplete," the Guardian interrupted. "Witness the truth of your inheritance." The scene shifted. Amanda watched, transfixed, as humans in the recording approached a group of alien beings. The aliens were clearly primitive, wielding tools of bone and stone. Yet the humans didn't raise weapons or establish defenses. Instead, they sat down among them, and through some form of technology Amanda couldn't comprehend, began to share knowledge. "The universal confluence," the Guardian explained. "Humanity discovered that consciousness itself could bridge species barriers. Where others saw primitives to be conquered or avoided, your ancestors saw potential waiting to be nurtured." The data crystal pulsed, and Amanda found herself immersed in a series of rapid visions. Humans teaching stellar navigation to beings of living crystal, sharing medical knowledge with gaseous entities that lived in the hearts of stars, demonstrating dimensional mathematics to aquatic civilizations in liquid methane seas. "Stop," Amanda commanded, her scientific mind struggling to process the implications. "Our oldest records show humanity being contacted by the Vextheri 300 years ago. We were the primitive species they uplifted." A new scene materialized. A vast chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species, all gathered around human teachers. "Your ancestors understood that power without wisdom brings only destruction," the Guardian continued. "They created the first galactic learning networks, sharing knowledge freely while teaching the responsibility its use demanded." The vision rippled, and Amanda's scanner suddenly blazed with alerts. Through her suit's sensors, she detected movement at the vault's entrance. "Multiple heat signatures approaching," Araya warned. "Profile matches Vextheri energy weapons." The Guardian's form flickered. "The suppressors have detected intrusion. You must complete the knowledge transfer quickly." "Knowledge transfer?" Amanda backed away. "What knowledge?" "Your genetic profile has been authenticated. You carry the markers of the teacher lineage. The data crystals contain more than historical records. They hold the accumulated wisdom of humanity's golden age, encoded to activate dormant sequences in your DNA." The approaching footsteps grew louder. Amanda's mind raced as she processed the Guardian's words. The strange intuitions she'd always had about alien technology, her inexplicable understanding of long-dead languages, they hadn't been lucky guesses. "If what you're showing me is true," she said, "why did we give it up? Why would humanity choose to forget?" The Guardian gestured, and a final scene appeared. A massive wave of darkness approaching the galaxy, devouring everything in its path. "That answer lies in the next crystal. But you must choose now. Once the transfer begins, there is no stopping it, and the knowledge will change you forever." Weapons fire echoed from the corridor. Amanda heard harsh voices speaking Vextheri Battlecant, orders to secure the vault and eliminate any witnesses. She squared her shoulders. "Do it." The Guardian placed its luminous hand against her helmet. The data crystal flared with blinding intensity, and Amanda felt knowledge flooding into her mind. Star maps, quantum equations, the true history of a dozen galaxies. But most importantly, she understood why her ancestors had chosen to guide rather than rule, and what that choice had cost them. As her consciousness expanded to accommodate millennia of inherited memory, Amanda heard the vault's door begin to crack under Vextheri weapons fire. She turned to face the entrance, ancient knowledge burning in her mind, and a teacher's wisdom flowing through her veins. The time for hiding humanity's truth was over. The Vextheri burst through the vault's entrance in a shower of crystalline shards, their combat forms towering in environmental suits adapted for maximum intimidation. But Amanda barely noticed them. Through eyes enhanced by newly awakened knowledge, she saw the truth beneath their advanced technology, pale imitations of designs humanity had discarded eons ago. "Step away from the archives," their commander ordered in heavily accented English. "This facility is now under Dominion control." Amanda raised her hand slowly, buying time as the next data crystal poured its contents into her consciousness. The images it contained made her blood run cold. "You don't understand what you're interrupting," she said, her voice steady despite the terror building inside her. The crystal was showing her the Void Cascade, a wave of entropic death that had threatened to devour all creation. In the vision, she watched entire civilizations vanish, their stars reduced to cold cinders in its wake. "The facility's contents are property of the Vextheri Dominion," the commander stated, advancing with weapon raised. "Your presence here violates 17 separate treaties." A new memory surfaced in Amanda's mind. Knowledge of how the Vextheri environmental suits could be deactivated with a specific harmonic frequency. But with that knowledge came the wisdom of why she shouldn't use it. Her ancestors hadn't been conquerors for a reason. "Let me show you instead," she said, raising her now glowing hands. The Guardian's essence had merged with her consciousness, giving her control over the vault systems. The chamber filled with a holographic display of the galaxy as it had been 50,000 years ago. The Vextheri troops froze as they witnessed their ancestors, barely tool users then, being gently guided by human teachers. But the peaceful scene was interrupted by the arrival of the Void Cascade, a wall of absolute darkness that consumed everything in its path. "Humanity wasn't always primitive," Amanda explained, her voice carrying the weight of inherited memories. "We were the first to see it coming, the first to understand what it would take to stop it." The hologram showed hundreds of elder races gathering in desperate council. Calculations and projections filled the air around them, all pointing to a single devastating conclusion. The only way to create a shield strong enough to stop the cascade was to bind the consciousness of entire civilizations into a galactic barrier, she continued. But the process would cost them everything they'd built, all their advancement, their technology, their very memories of what they'd been. The Vextheri commander lowered his weapon slightly. "You expect us to believe humans sacrificed their civilization to save the galaxy. We didn't do it alone." The hologram showed the final moments. Dozens of elder races joining hands, their combined consciousness weaving a shield of pure thought and energy across the galaxy's edge. But humanity led the way. We showed them it was possible to give up everything. We were to save what could be. A new alert flashed across Amanda's helmet display. Her suit's sensors were detecting a familiar quantum signature at the edge of known space, the same pattern the ancient records showed before the first Void Cascade. "It's returning," she whispered, the horror of the realization washing over her. "That's why the archives activated now. That's why the genetic memories are awakening. We prepared for this moment." The Vextheri troops looked at each other uncertainly as their own sensors began detecting the anomaly. Their commander's posture shifted from threatening to alert. "If you're lying," he began. "You know I'm not," Amanda interrupted. "Your people's deepest legends speak of a time before the Great Sleep, don't they? Stories of teachers from the stars who gave up their power to save creation." The commander was silent for a long moment. Finally, he lowered his weapon completely. "How long do we have?" Amanda accessed her newly awakened knowledge, calculating the cascade's approach velocity. Months, maybe less. But this time, she touched the final data crystal, feeling its knowledge flow into her. This time, we don't have to face it alone. The crystal pulsed one last time, revealing humanity's final gift to the future, a plan 50,000 years in the making. The Vex Theory commander's cooperation lasted exactly 3 hours. Amanda was halfway through decoding the final crystal's contents when the vault's security systems detected a massive energy surge from orbit. Multiple warships entering atmosphere, Aria warned. Designated Vex Theory Purifier-class destroyers. Amanda's newly awakened memories identified the ships before they appeared on her sensors. Planet killer vessels, designed to sterilize entire worlds. The commander had merely been stalling while the Dominion's real response arrived. Calculating optimal escape vectors, ARIA continued. Probability of survival, 12.3%. They're not here to kill me, Amanda realized, ancient knowledge clicking into place. They're here to bury the truth. Again. The vault's walls trembled as the first orbital strikes hit the surrounding desert. The commander and his troops had already retreated, leaving her alone with the archives. But as she rushed to gather the remaining data crystals, a new figure stepped from the shadows, humanoid, wearing a mask that seemed to absorb light itself. Dr. Hayes. The figure's voice was deliberately distorted. The back exit tunnel is this way, unless you prefer to test your newfound knowledge against a planetary bombardment. Amanda's enhanced instincts screamed danger, but something deeper, something in her awakened DNA, recognized the mask's design. You're from the library. And you're about to learn why we've stayed hidden for 50 millennia. The figure gestured urgently. Quickly now. They sprinted through crystalline corridors as the bombardment intensified. The masked figure, self-identified only as the librarian, moved with impossible grace, leading them through passages that shouldn't have existed according to Amanda's scans. Your own government signed the order for this strike, the librarian explained as they ran. The Vex Theory merely provided the ships. Earth's leaders have been helping suppress the truth since the first awakening 30 years ago. What awakening? Did you think you were the first? The librarian paused at an intersection, checking a device that resembled liquid mercury. Every few years, someone gets too close to the truth. Usually, they disappear quietly. You forced their hand by accessing the archives directly. The tunnel ended at what appeared to be a solid wall. The librarian pressed their palm against it, and reality itself seemed to fold around them. They stepped out onto a ridge 5 kilometers from the vault, just as white-hot beams from the purifier ships turned the excavation site into molten glass. Why? Amanda demanded, watching humanity's heritage vanish in atomic fire. Why would Earth help hide this? Power. The librarian's mask shifted, revealing patterns similar to the vault's guardian. The Vex Theory built their empire on the myth of their superiority. Earth's leaders get to share that power as long as humanity stays primitive and compliant. Amanda's mind raced through the implications. The genetic memories. They're not just activating randomly, are they? The Void Cascade's return is triggering a failsafe our ancestors built into our DNA. But there are those who'd rather rule a dying galaxy than share power with awakened humanity. A high-pitched whine cut through the air. Vex Theory interceptors screamed across the sky, searching for survivors. I saved what I could, Amanda said, patting her pack where she'd stored several data crystals. Not enough. The librarian produced a small device that hummed with familiar energy. The full archives exist in 7 other locations across the galaxy. Each contains a piece of humanity's final plan. We need to reach them all before the Dominion does. And if we don't? The librarian's mask went transparent, revealing features that were both familiar and alien, human, but somehow more. Then 50,000 years of sacrifice will have been for nothing. The cascade will return, and this time, there won't be enough advanced civilizations left to stop it. Amanda looked back at the molten crater that had been her discovery. Her old life, her career, her reputation, her safety, was gone. But the knowledge burning in her DNA showed her something greater, a legacy of sacrifice and wisdom that spanned millennia. When do we start? The librarian's mask solidified again as thunder rolled across the crimson desert. We already have. The real question is, who can we trust when we find the next vault? Amanda dropped instinctively as a Vextheri stun bolt crackled through the space where her head had been. 3 weeks of running had honed her reflexes, but this was different. She'd known to dodge before the librarian's warning, before the guard had even fired. They were deep inside a secret Vextheri research facility on Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. What had started as a stealth mission had devolved into a firefight when facility sensors detected the unique quantum signature of Amanda's awakening DNA. The containment lab is 2 levels down. The librarian called out, their mask rippling as they disabled the facility's security systems. Whatever they're studying down there set off every genetic alarm in my scanner. Amanda nodded, consulting the facility blueprints now somehow burned into her memory. There's something else. I can feel it, like a song in my blood. We're not just here for data, are we? Very good. The librarian's tone held approval. Your activation is progressing faster than expected. They fought their way down to the lower levels, Amanda surprising herself with each engagement. She didn't just avoid attacks, she anticipated them, her body moving with inherited muscle memory from combat forms long forgotten. The containment lab's doors were 3 feet of reinforced metals, but they crumpled like paper when Amanda pressed her palm against them, ancient knowledge guiding her actions. Inside, suspended in stasis fields, floated hundreds of DNA samples. Human genetic material, she breathed, reading the labels. They've been studying us. All this time, they knew. That human DNA isn't junk code at all. The librarian finished, rushing to a central console. It's the most sophisticated data storage system ever created. Your ancestors encoded their entire civilization into our genes, compressed and hidden as apparent evolutionary artifacts. Warning klaxons blared as Amanda approached one of the stasis tubes. Her reflection caught her eye, and she froze. Patterns of light danced beneath her skin, matching the frequencies of the ancient false guardian. The awakening, she whispered. It's not just memories, is it? We're becoming what they were. The librarian's fingers flew across the console. Humanity didn't evolve naturally. The sacrifice to stop the void cascade meant encoding everything. Technology, knowledge, even physical capabilities, into a form that could be passed down through generations, waiting for the right moment to reactivate. Suddenly, every stasis tube in the lab pulsed with blue light, responding to Amanda's presence. The DNA samples began to glow, patterns matching the light under her skin. They're recognizing you, the librarian explained. Your fully activated genes are triggering the dormant codes in all human DNA within range. This is what the Vextheri feared, not just a few awakened humans, but a cascade of activation across the entire species. Amanda touched one of the tubes, and knowledge flooded her consciousness. She saw the full scope of her ancestors' plan. Billions of humans carrying fragments of ancient wisdom in their very cells, each piece waiting to connect with others, rebuilding a network of knowledge spanning the galaxy. The facility's internal defenses activated, filling the lab with deadly radiation. But Amanda barely noticed. Her cells were adapting, restructuring, becoming something both ancient and new. Time to go, the librarian urged, collecting data cores. Vextheri elite guards air. Already here, Amanda finished. She could sense them now, feel the primitive imitations of human technology in their weapons and armor. But they don't understand what they're facing. None of them do. As if in response, her DNA pulsed with new information. She saw hidden installations across 100 worlds, each containing pieces of humanity's legacy. She saw other awakened humans, their genes activating in response to the approaching cascade. And she saw the truth that the Vextheri would kill to suppress. Humanity had never been primitive. They had chosen to wait, to hide their strength until every species was advanced enough to face the coming darkness together. The elite guards burst in, weapons charged. Amanda turned to face them, ancient wisdom burning in her transformed cells. "Shall we show them?" she asked the librarian, light dancing across her skin. "What humanity has been waiting 50,000 years to become." The Vextheri elite guards never stood a chance. Amanda didn't just fight them. She danced through their formation, her movements guided by combat knowledge encoded in her DNA eons ago. Each strike disabled rather than killed, demonstrating a mastery that made their advanced training look primitive by comparison. "Enough," she commanded, her voice carrying harmonics that made their weapon systems shut down. "You've already lost this war. You just don't know it yet." The guards collapsed, their neural implants overloaded by frequencies they were never meant to process. As Amanda lowered her hands, her skin's glow subsided, but the knowledge burning in her genes only grew stronger. "It's starting," the librarian announced, checking a quantum display. "Your awakening has triggered a cascade effect. Reports are coming in from across human space." The facility's screens flickered to life, showing news feeds from 100 worlds. On Mars, a teenage colonist had suddenly solved a centuries-old problem in quantum mechanics. In the asteroid belt, miners were discovering they could sense ore deposits through solid rock. Earth's universities were flooding with reports of students demonstrating impossible abilities. "How many?" Amanda asked, accessing a nearby terminal with just a thought. "Thousands already. Millions by next week." The librarian's mask rippled with excitement. "Each awakened human carries different fragments of our ancestors' knowledge. The network is rebuilding itself." A priority alert flashed across the screens. The Vextheri Dominion had just declared a state of emergency. Their attempt to quarantine human populations was meeting unexpected resistance, not from weapons, but from an unprecedented wave of diplomatic and technological innovation. "They're trying to contain it," Amanda observed, "but they don't understand. This isn't an uprising. It's an remembering." New reports poured in. A human cargo pilot had instinctively navigated an imploding wormhole using equations her species wasn't supposed to comprehend. A medical student had cured a plague by recalling treatments that wouldn't be discovered for another 1,000 years. Artists were creating works that contained hidden mathematical principles capable of revolutionizing space travel. The void cascade accelerated the timeline, the librarian explained, gathering data from the facility's computers. The encoded knowledge was meant to return gradually over centuries. Instead, "We're getting it all at once." Amanda closed her eyes, feeling the network of awakened minds expanding across space. Each new activation added another piece to the puzzle, another fragment of humanity's true legacy. Suddenly, alarms blared. The facility's long-range sensors had detected multiple Purifier-class destroyers entering the solar system. The Vextheri were done with subtlety. "They're going to sterilize Earth," Amanda realized. "Try to stop the awakening at its source." But even as she spoke, something remarkable was happening. The awakened humans weren't running. They weren't even fighting back. Instead, they were reaching out, using their newfound knowledge to demonstrate exactly why their ancestors had chosen to be teachers rather than conquerors. On 100 worlds, humans were solving problems that had plagued other species for millennia. They were healing ancient conflicts with wisdom pulled from genetic memory. The Vextheri battle fleet found itself confronted not by weapons, but by diplomatic solutions so elegant that their own populations began questioning their leaders' actions. "Look," the librarian pointed to a new alert. A group of awakened children had just prevented a war between two alien species by teaching them both a form of mathematics that demonstrated their culture's fundamental unity. Amanda felt tears in her eyes as she accessed more reports. This was humanity's true inheritance, not the power to dominate, but the wisdom to guide. Each awakened human carried a different piece of their ancestors' knowledge, forcing cooperation to reconstruct the whole. "The void cascade is still coming," she reminded the librarian. "All of this was just preparation for the real fight." "Yes," The librarian's mask transformed, becoming transparent enough to show a smile. But this time, humanity isn't facing it alone. We're doing what we were encoded to do, teaching the galaxy how to face the darkness together. Amanda nodded, feeling the network of awakened minds pulse with shared purpose. The time for hiding was over. The time for teaching had begun again. The Galactic Council chamber hadn't seen this many species gathered in one place for 50,000 years. Amanda stood at its center, her awakened DNA resonating with the ancient architecture. Representatives from 1,000 worlds filled the tiered seats, their attention fixed on the holographic display showing the Void Cascade's approach. 3 weeks, she announced, her voice carrying harmonics that translated into every known language simultaneously. That's how long until it reaches the galaxy's edge. The same point where our ancestors made their stand. The Vextheri High Commander rose from his seat, his pride warring with desperation. Why should we trust you? Your species has deceived us all. No, Amanda interrupted gently. We waited. There's a difference. Her skin glowed with inherited power as she gestured to the display. The image shifted, showing the original sacrifice that had saved the galaxy. Our ancestors understood something fundamental about civilization, she continued. True advancement isn't about technology or power. It's about wisdom. They knew that simply giving knowledge to unprepared species would lead to destruction. The chamber's quantum screens came alive with reports from across the galaxy. On each display, awakened humans were sharing their inherited knowledge in ways that transformed understanding into wisdom. In the Orion cluster, a former barista was teaching crystalline beings how to heal their dying sun using equations written in light. Near the galactic core, a teenage gamer had unlocked genetic memories that allowed her to mediate a 1,000-year conflict between silicon-based species. Earth's universities had become beacons of innovation as professors suddenly understood concepts their species wasn't supposed to grasp for centuries. We carry different fragments, Amanda explained, because our ancestors knew that wisdom grows through connection. No single human holds all the knowledge. We must work together, not just with each other, but with every species, to reconstruct what was preserved. The librarian, standing beside her, activated a deeper level of the holographic display. It showed the quantum connections forming between awakened humans and other species, a network of shared understanding spreading across the galaxy. The Void Cascade cannot be stopped by weapons, Amanda continued. Our ancestors proved that, but it can be transformed by understanding. Each species here holds a piece of the solution, if we can learn to combine our knowledge. A murmur ran through the chamber as ancient defense systems, hidden in supposedly primitive human colonies, began activating. But they weren't weapons. They were teaching tools, designed to help species share understanding across physical and cultural barriers. Your ancestors, the Vextheri commander said slowly, they could have ruled the galaxy. Instead, they chose to guide it. To wait 50,000 years for other species to develop the wisdom to face this threat. Yes, Amanda smiled as more displays showed awakened humans around the galaxy, each sharing their unique fragments of knowledge. They understood that true civilization isn't built on power. It's built on teaching. Suddenly, quantum alarms blared. The Void Cascade had accelerated. They didn't have 3 weeks. They had 3 days. It knows, the librarian whispered. It senses the awakening. Amanda felt the network of minds pulse with shared purpose. Around the galaxy, humans and aliens alike were combining their understanding in ways that transcended individual species. The teaching network that humanity had encoded in its DNA was rebuilding itself, stronger than ever. Then we don't have time for doubt, she declared to the chamber. The question isn't whether to trust humans. The question is, are you ready to learn what we've waited 50,000 years to teach? The Vextheri commander was the first to step forward, setting aside millennia of pride. Teach us. One by one, representatives from every species joined the circle forming around Amanda. The chamber's ancient systems hummed to life, ready to share knowledge that had been hidden since the first sacrifice. As Amanda began the first lesson, she felt the truth of humanity's legacy burning in her transformed cells. They had never been meant to be conquerors or rulers. They were teachers. And class was finally in session. The void cascade loomed at the galaxy's edge, a wall of entropy that devoured light itself. From the observation deck of humanity's newly awakened flagship, Amanda watched as the combined fleet of every spacefaring species took position. But unlike 50,000 years ago, they weren't preparing for a last stand. They were preparing to teach darkness itself about light. Final connections established. The librarian reported, their mask now permanently transparent. The teaching network spans the entire galaxy. Every awakened human is linked, sharing their knowledge fragments. Amanda nodded, feeling the vast web of consciousness humming through her enhanced DNA. And the other species, all present. The Vextheri are anchoring the quantum fields. The crystalline minds are amplifying our transmission capacity. Even the star dragons have emerged from the galactic core to join us. On screens throughout the ship, Amanda watched as humanity's hidden legacy revealed its final form. What had seemed like random fragments of knowledge were combining into something greater, a lesson 50,000 years in the making. Our ancestors knew this moment would come, she said, understanding flowing through her transformed cells. The first sacrifice wasn't just about stopping the cascade. It was about preparing the galaxy for its return. The void cascade accelerated, as if sensing their intent. Space itself began to warp as the barrier between existence and entropy grew thin. But this time, they were ready. Begin the lesson, Amanda commanded. Across the galaxy, awakened humans activated their knowledge fragments simultaneously. Each piece contained not just information, but understanding. Not just power, but wisdom. The combined consciousness of every species flowed through the network they created, each contributing their unique perspective to the whole. The void cascade struck the first line of defense and hesitated. Instead of finding isolated civilizations to devour, it encountered something new. A unified galaxy, its consciousness woven together through humanity's teaching network. Every species contributing, every mind connected, creating something greater than the sum of its parts. It's working, the librarian breathed. The cascade, it's trying to understand us. Amanda smiled as she felt the truth of humanity's plan unfold. That's what teachers do, she said. We don't just share knowledge. We make the unknowable knowable. Through the vast network, she initiated the final sequence. The knowledge encoded in human DNA wasn't just about science or technology. It was about transformation, about taking entropy itself and showing it another way to be. The void cascade's darkness began to change, its entropy transforming as it learned what humanity had spent 50,000 years preparing to teach. It wasn't destroyed or driven back. Instead, it was educated, shown how to exist in harmony with the light it had once sought to devour. Around the galaxy, ancient installations activated, not as weapons but as bridges between understanding and ignorance. The cascade, that great darkness that had threatened all existence, didn't vanish, it evolved. Our ancestors knew, Amanda whispered, watching the transformation. They knew that the only way to truly stop destruction was to teach it how to create. The librarian's eyes widened as the final piece clicked into place. The great sacrifice. It wasn't just about saving the galaxy. It was about preparing for this moment, teaching the universe itself a new way to exist. As the transformed cascade merged with the galaxy's consciousness, Amanda felt the network pulse with triumphant understanding. Humanity had hidden its greatness not out of fear or weakness, but because true teaching required the student to discover their own power. What now? The Vextheri commander asked through the network. With your full power restored, will humanity reclaim its place as rulers of the galaxy? Amanda laughed, feeling the joy of 50,000 years of teachers flow through her genes. Rule? Why would we want to rule when we can continue to teach? There's so much left to learn. all of us, together. As the new dawn broke over the galaxy, humanity's greatest truth shone brighter than any star. In the end, the most powerful force in the universe wasn't conquest or technology or even sacrifice. It was the simple, endless power of teaching others how to shine.